everyone, and thank you for choosing to watch this video. This one is going to be something quite different from my usual videos, but it's one that I have wanted to make for quite some time. It's something I often think about, it's something that is important to me, and I hope it encourages some thought in everyone who watches this video too. I'm definitely not an authority on this topic, but I'd like to share some heartfelt beliefs. To start off, I want to go back a few years to before I started making YouTube videos. I had some more free time back then and I watched quite a few landscape photography videos, many more than I do now. I'd occasionally read the comments on these videos and quite often I would find people asking for the specific location a photographer was at, if it wasn't mentioned in the video of course, because they wanted to go there themselves. Sometimes a photographer said in the video that they weren't going to reveal the location for various reasons, and I was quite concerned to see the dislike this could be met with in the comments section. It's still stuck in my mind seeing comments such as, "Who do you think you are? I have a right to go there if I want," and other similar angry reactions. And also allegations that the photographer just wants to keep the place for themselves. Obviously this was the minority, but it was surprisingly common, and it was also common on other platforms too, such as Instagram, etc. How much this still occurs I don't know, as although I publish content on these platforms, I don't have the same time as before to browse content in detail. I personally have quite a small following on the various platforms that I use, but as time has passed I've received an increasing number of requests asking me where I captured various photographs or have made various videos. I can only imagine the number of requests that photographers with larger followings get, if of course they are not openly stating where they took a specific photograph. When I receive these requests I always try, where time permits, to take the time to reply, explaining why I personally don't think it's for the best to share locations on the internet, and have finally decided to make this video to cover this topic in a bit more detail, giving my own thoughts on this matter. Even though I have a relatively small following, my photographs and videos can potentially be seen by thousands of people when published on the internet. Imagine the potential number of people viewing content from more popular photographers who may have hundreds of thousands, if not a million or more followers across the various platforms that they use. When a photographer, especially a well-known one, creates a photograph or video that resonates with people, especially videos where the photographer clearly shows and states how amazing the location is, it will naturally make viewers want to go there. Perhaps to try and take the same photograph, perhaps just to visit, perhaps a little bit of both. This has the potential to increase the number of visitors to that area significantly. In fact, it could transform it from a relatively unknown and unvisited place to something of a famous go-to area, a hotspot if you like for photographers and tourists. This can have a number of negative side effects on that place. The location itself may suffer due to the increased foot traffic, paths may deteriorate, people may leave paths and vegetation may get trampled. Locations in which there are no paths may become trodden down, potentially damaging sensitive areas and forming new paths, and these new paths may encourage more unintentional damage. With enough visitors, places can change and not for the better. I visited Skye a number of times and it is a place I absolutely love, but I have been very saddened to see the state of various well-known spots that are good for photography deteriorate worryingly due to the sheer number of visitors. Glencoe is another place that has really suffered badly. Even less known places that I have visited have changed and deteriorated in a worrying manner due to them increasing in popularity. Most of us will take care when we visit places, however some unfortunately won't, and things can get trodden down or snapped off just to help someone get that killer shot. Even if every one of us takes care, the sheer volume of foot traffic definitely takes its toll. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on wildlife, but wildlife is always present in my mind when doing landscape photography. Generally speaking, wildlife prefers not to be around humans, and often, for example when walking through woodland, I feel I am actually in their home. If a woodland, or potentially other areas, has an increase in human visitors, especially photographers searching it for compositions, it certainly has potential to affect the wildlife who live there as well as the terrain itself. The potential increase in drone use in these areas could be a concern too. To make it very clear, I would like to assume that the vast majority of photographers and visitors in general always respect areas. Every time I am out, I am very mindful of what I am doing, where I step, and I take care never to damage an area for a photograph. The location always comes first. However, no matter how careful people may be, an increase of traffic to an area may come with various costs. Another thing to consider are the roads leading to these areas. Are they of sufficient width and in good shape to handle an increase in traffic? Or are they narrow, poorly maintained roads not designed for such purpose and volumes, and traffic flow could also become a real problem? One such example that springs to mind again is Skye. Through the sheer volume of visitors, and I'd imagine nearly every one of them brings a camera, Skye is really suffering in many different ways, as are the people who live there. Living in Scotland, I am often saddened to read newspaper reports of areas deteriorating, being damaged, and just generally struggling to cope due to the number of visitors. I've read many such articles recently about this happening in other countries too, and I think it is slowly becoming a recognised and concerning issue. Even with the pandemic and the restrictions that have been imposed this year, it has still definitely been an issue. I've talked briefly about locations and wildlife, but something that is at least equally important to me are the actual people who may live in or near these areas. I recall watching a video quite some time ago in which a photographer visited a village to take a photograph of a specific scene. The video clearly named the location in the title, and the photographer spoke about it in the video and encouraged other people to visit this area and gave tips on the best spots to get good compositions. There was a comment on that video from someone who actually lived in the village. I don't think they were a photographer themselves, but perhaps YouTube had recommended the video to them or they'd found it in a search. The viewer's comment was really nice, but rightfully showed concern. It said they enjoyed watching the video and thought the photographer had taken some nice photographs, but that they really hoped the video would not become popular and therefore encourage lots of traffic and visitors to their quiet, peaceful village. I can't speak for the person who left this comment, but it was written so nicely that I don't think for a second they felt they owned the village or that they had any special rights there. I think they spoke from the heart, and I totally understand and sympathise with their viewpoint. Some people deliberately choose a quiet, less populated place to live to get the lifestyle that they want, and it must be upsetting for that place to change into something else entirely due to it becoming somewhat internet famous due to such videos and photographs on the internet. Then of course, if the people who watch these videos or see the photographs go there and make their own content from that location and disclose it, you can imagine the snowball effect that takes place. Even if a village or area has the infrastructure to cope with the increased vehicle and foot traffic, I sympathise deeply and feel for the people who live there. Perhaps they enjoyed quiet, peaceful strolls on a beach or a local woodland to relax, but now they can no longer get that solitude. Being landscape photographers who often seek that solitude, this is something we should very much understand and respect, and we must realise that our actions, if we are not careful, could deprive others who live in the locations we visit of the same enjoyment. I've touched on a few of my concerns and beliefs regarding the potential harm that can be done by disclosing locations. The internet and its various platforms are wonderful for sharing, but I believe we must be very careful of exactly what we share. I've spoken in general terms, and of course there will be exceptions where it is fine to share a location. If a photographer visits an extremely remote area of the world, which takes tremendous effort and expense, and perhaps even requires a guide, then I doubt that place will become a hotspot. I'm sure you can imagine other types of places which are okay to share. Common sense is the key. When I launched my YouTube channel and other social media channels, I always wanted them to be 100% about the photography. Yes, I need to be at a location if I'm shooting outdoors, but my videos are always about photography, my experience, and perhaps some tips along the way. I feel that the tourist board is there to assist people with planning places to visit, and they will do that in a way which is manageable and well planned. When it comes to landscape photography content on YouTube and so on, I feel that is very different. It has the potential to drive large numbers of people to very specific locations, perhaps sensitive ones, and I'm not sure that we, as photographers and content creators, are skilled and knowledgeable enough to control and manage the potential harmful effects of that. I think encouraging visits to areas is the job of, and is best managed by, those who are trained to do that for a living. So I've covered my own personal reasons why I choose, most of the time and within reason of course, not to talk about locations. Personally, I don't feel it is in the best interest of the locations that I visit, nor the wildlife and people who live there, to do anything that could increase visitor numbers. Being honest, I suspect this is not in the best interest in terms of getting views on YouTube or Instagram. I am sure that if I publish content naming locations and even produce video guides to the best places for landscape photography in Scotland, it would be much better for my own business, but that's just not me. With the popularity of landscape photography and the internet in general, I feel that if things continue as they are, some areas will be very different from what they are now in a few years' time. For many places, unfortunately, that has already happened. Can we do anything about it? Of course we can. I always try to take care and leave a landscape the way I found it every time I am out doing landscape photography. I think about the wildlife and I think about the other people who may be there or live in the area. I try to gently touch on this topic during workshops. I also try to encourage other people to just head out and see what you can find, discover scenes and subjects that are new to you rather than what you've seen someone else capture. There are fantastic images waiting to be created almost anywhere. When you find something that resonates with you and you craft your own compositions, that is when you will get the maximum enjoyment and fulfillment from your own photography. It is also a fantastic way to improve. When we go find our own things to photograph, the overall load on places is reduced and spread out rather than concentrated on hotspots made popular via the internet. Please let me finish this video by making a suggestion. Next time any of us are about to upload a photograph to an app or to a website, or are about to create a new YouTube video, why don't we all take a few seconds to think a little bit more about the potential effect of us sharing the location?